Hi, and welcome. Welcome to Pixel Plastic Inc. I am I'm one of the hosts. I'm Chet Maddox, along with Dr. Brantley, Mr. Storm, and Chris is off on his yacht, taking names and gambling. He lost one of his yachts, so now he's got to go try to get the other one back. We are excited to be here, fellas. How you doing?
Hey, doing all right, man.
Doing
good.
Okay. Okay. Dr. Brantley, I see that you're in a situation behind you. I hope that everything goes well.
I'm hanging out in the Temple of Doom.
Okay.
But you know,
well,
I got Indy, so I'm fine.
All right. Well, you're gonna make it. Hey, look, everyone, we got a good show. We got our Pixel segment is we're gonna talk a little bit about Mad Max and the MCU X-Men. Did they find a new writer? We're not really sure yet. But in plastic, McFarlane Toys makes a move we didn't think they were going to make because, well, frankly, he said it before. And then in ink, does comic have an alternative cover problem? Meaning, are you spending way too much money? All that more when you come back on Pixel Plastic Inc. Wow. Dr. Brantley, you did really good on the guitar solo.
Does he?
You're welcome.
Yeah, he did fantastic. How's everyone's week been? Meeks, welcome in. Meeks is in at the top of the hour. This is
isn't he?
This is a damn good day so far.
He must have poured himself an early drink tonight. Way to go, Meeks.
Yeah, he did. Yeah, either that or he shoved his kids in a closet. Hey, so how are we doing? How's everyone going? How are we doing?
Doing pretty good, man. Pretty good. Say not as good as Chris. You know, like I said again, it must be a shame on the yacht that he's in, but we wish him well. We'll see him next week and everything back to the regular land of just the regular guys.
Yeah, well,
it's a long weekend. It's so it can't be that bad.
He hasn't brought my yacht, but his was bigger, so I guess I got to figure it out. I got to get a bigger one. Well, I think we probably have a lot we got to talk to. So happy to be here on Friday. A week from now is probably the best day in the universe, and we'll get over that. We'll go over that next week. But it's going to be the best day in the universe ever. So we want to say hello and welcome to all 300,000 of you watching right now. It's fantastic. Happy to have you here. Make sure you're remembering to subscribe, like, comment, and click on the links below in this as we get into this to follow us on your favorite podcasting app, whether it's Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or if you're stuck in a time machine, Google Podcasts that does not exist anymore. Fellas, Mad Max franchise is going nuts. And before we get into like Furiosa though, what did you think of the more recent Mad Maxes?
You know what? Now this is a question and debate that Dr. Brentley and I went off at. I didn't like Tom Hardy's performance, and I rarely do. I think that he gives subpar performances. I thought Charlize Theron was actually great. And I'm kind of happy that the new movie they didn't de-age her. I'm glad they actually went back at a equally as talented actress to come in and actually play that role, because I think sometimes when they do the de-aging part, it takes something from the performance a little bit, that much CGI. But I didn't like Tom Hardy's performance. I thought the movie was decent in a lot of ways. I didn't think it was to the par of Mel Gibson's versions of Mad Max, but it wasn't bad though. It was still a higher mark for a franchise. It wasn't like we went and it was like Phantom Menace, and it was completely terrible from the first prequel movie. So that's my 2 cents.
Completely disagree. Me and a friend went and saw this in theater, and I was completely blown away by it. You know, I was a little scared at first because it's like, wait, Mad Max after 30 years or whatever, you're going to bring this back. But they actually did it, and George Miller was on top of his game, I think better than he's been. And my friend said it was the craziest thing he's ever seen in a theater, which I can't think of anything that was a little bit crazier than that, you know, all the people jumping off stuff.
I beg to differ, sir. I saw somebody ride a Doom Worm in a theater. I've seen a fully fledged kaiju version of Godzilla walk into the theater and actually order popcorn. So I've seen some weird stuff in the theater, man.
On the screen. On the screen.
Okay, on the screen. Well, you know.
Yeah. But I loved Fury Road. How about you?
Yeah, no, I have to sit back and think a little bit on what Mr. Storm's saying about Tom Hardy, because I am complete opposite of that. I think he does very well. I think he does well in certain roles. Like Venom is less to be desired.
I hate him in Venom. I can't stand him.
It's
and
bad.
Mad Max, none of that. So
I'm with you on that. Mad Max, watching Tom Hardy in Mad Max was great. I think it was great. I loved it because that was also the same time that they came out with the video game, which was fun. It's repetitive, but I know in recent news they want to tap into what's his name that did I can't think of it right now. I'm spacing. Anyways, Meeks, you know, he does a bunch of crazy video games. He's Japanese. I can't remember his name. Anyways, they want to tap into him for a Mad Max game, and I think at that time when it came out, some of the scenes that were in the theater, I believe it came out in IMAX, and that's where I watched it. But there was like the scene where they're driving, the guy's like flying back on the poles, and like all that crazy shit that was going on.
Yeah.
It was fantastic.
Look,
I liked it.
I'm not going to disagree with. I thought the action was good. I just thought that Tom Hardy didn't have the screen presence and the charisma of Mel Gibson when he was in that character, and that's true. To me, is what's lacking out of the Mad Max. He just didn't pull it off as well as Mel Gibson. Now there are other actors that act as well as Mel Gibson does. I just think that Tom Hardy just did not do that. So for me, that was my disappointment. But the other actors, the on-screen presence, I thought the vehicles were 10 times better. It was more extreme. There was practical stunts, not CGI. These were all the things that I think that George Miller is the guiding light of this. I just thought that their version of the actor for Mad Max wasn't the right fit. That's all.
Well, he ain't Mel Gibson. I'll tell you that. That's true. But I wasn't comparing him in the movie. I was just going along with the movie. And it was done differently than the other Max movies, where in fact it wasn't necessarily even his movie. It was more Furiosa's movie.
Exactly. Well,
but it was still an enjoyable movie, but that's how it had to be.
Yeah, that's what all the comics were too. They were heavy on Furiosa. But that Hideo Kojima is the person I was thinking of the video game. So let's get into Pixels and let's talk about Furiosa. May 24th, it drops. Guess.
Well, it dropped all right.
It sure did.
So this is on par to be the lowest Memorial Day opening in 41 years.
Man.
We have to go back to Return of the Jedi in 1983 that opened to 30.5 million, which was big for the time. But you know, that's not adjusted for inflation. And Furiosa is supposed to come in somewhere between 31 and 34 million for
Which,
the 3-day weekend, the whole 3-day weekend.
yeah, which let's not get it twisted. That's, I
Or
think
4-day.
I think we're inflating things a little too much on certain things. I think that movie will do better internationally. I think that it's all right. 34, like it's not like it's something that came in and it was like 10 or 15. Then we're talking about, okay,
Well,
George Miller
but
might
I
not be
mean,
making another Mad Max movie
come
in his career.
on.
But I think he's okay because I think it will pick up internationally.
Not
But
enough. Not enough.
well,
Because this one, let's see. So in 2018, right, we all thought this was a huge flop. Solo. That
Yeah.
opened to 103 million over Memorial Day weekend. Okay. And that was a disappointment. So this
But
is
also
probably sending Warner Brothers people screaming out the windows.
okay,
But
but
why do you think it's opening so low but doing so well?
I think it's opening low because of the fact, again, it's like it's not Mad Max.
Well, yeah,
It's like,
this is
look,
definitely there's no Max in it.
they gave an absolute inflated amount of time to Furiosa, and that's fine. It's just that you can't say a Mad Max saga at the back and Mad Max is not in there. Look, and I think that fans I understand that we want to talk about this movie. I'm like, there's a huge majority of people that still want to see Mel Gibson revive that role. And I think this is greater points where George Miller had a couple of interviews where he basically kind of said that, like what we've all said, that he's moved on from Mel in a lot of ways. But an old man Mad Max, like if you're seeing old man Logan, you're seeing all like the one guy that we want to see make it into like his late 60s and 70s in that kind of world, and an actor of Mel Gibson's, his career defining performance, you're not bringing him back. Okay, that doesn't seem too wise.
That could be an interesting story to tell too, because you said it as like maybe society is trying to come back together. It's so many years later, right? And you can do something where it's about to collapse, and Max has to do one last crazy thing to save everybody, but probably screws him.
Well, and I don't think if you de-age down, if everybody would have been like, wow, I don't think that's the mixer. This is a very good actress they have in the role. It looks fantastic. The shots are fantastic. It's just that, I think like people went in the theater thinking to themselves like, oh, I thought we were going to actually get to see Mad Max again, because next thing what are you going to do? Like a Mad Max villain is taking the next movie. It's like I think George Miller is complicating this franchise instead of doing a simplistic way of just getting it out, because the 3 movies are in lore. People love those 3 movies, man.
Yeah, I just don't see why this movie wasn't a continuation from the end of the last one, 2015. I don't see why. I'm not really sure I understand it. I'll probably see it in the theater, to be completely honest, but also knowing that there's just like not a lot of Mad Max, it's kind of like I mean, the Furiosa comics, when they focused on that, was very left very little to be desired. Like even the comics were kind of like, I don't know, you can't really get in too much on Furiosa, because when you start getting heavy into Furiosa, you have to wonder, are you crossing over into Tank Girl? So like I don't know. I think it's going to be slow. I think it's going to be a low opening. I'm with Dr. Brentley on that. But hey, look, like Miller, I love him. I think there's a lot of potential there. But I am curious in terms of like where Miller is, like how many more stories do we think that he has?
Well, he's stating he's got a bunch left. He did an interview.
Like, do we think they're going to be Mad Max, or do we think he's just?
I don't know. I think he's extremely
Happy
hesitant.
Feet 3.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
I think he's extremely hesitant to bring Mel Gibson back, and I think that he's moving into it's kind of hard to ignore the guy that basically you two built your careers together, and now you decided to go on from this, and you haven't found a good replace. Like there was a younger actor that was as well as Mel Gibson on the screen that did him in the same role. I think he could move on, but not when you've got Mel Gibson who's still doing good work, regardless of how
Yeah.
you feel from him
Yeah,
personally.
yeah,
The
you
man's still doing good work.
yeah, he's one of those. He's one of those. He's always in the arguments I have. Mel Gibson and Tom Cruise. He's always in the argument. Like people tend to lean in heavy on the personal crap, but the reality is like if they did a Mad Max with Mel Gibson, you would make boatloads of cash because Mel Gibson is still Mel Gibson and is still what we know to be the look of Mad Max. And Mel Gibson's acting, regardless, like you said, what you think about him personally, like Mel Gibson's a great actor. Like he's a great actor. Like same thing with like people who have problems with Tom Cruise, like, oh, I hate him, blah, blah. It's like, yeah, well, but I mean, he's a good actor. So like I'm going to get entertained. I don't give a shit about their personal life.
Yeah, I can tell you if Mel was in this version of Mad Max and everything, I'd be right with Chris and everything, and so I'd be off the show tonight, going right to see it in the theater.
And Chris is watching on his yacht, so
something like that would open to like 75 to 100 million at least. I
Easy.
think.
But can we creep past the point where everyone's talking? Look, this entire so far summer, I think, other than Deadpool and some other actors or other films, I don't think it's going to be a great summer. I think it's going to be. What's going on, sir? Thanks for popping in. I don't think it's going to be a really fantastic summer. I think this is probably going to be next year, if you count out Wolverine, Deadpool. It's going to be a low box office summer. I'm looking at the releases. There's not a lot of stuff that's in the theater this year, and it's not due to the acting scenario.
No, you know what it's due to is that everyone found out that they were releasing Deadpool and Wolverine this year, and we're like, "F that! I'm not doing it."
Well, I know Marvel moved off some movies, and
you have to.
Yeah,
you're gonna have to, and you'll see why when that movie comes out, because it'll just take everyone else's money that they wanted. So that's why I give them credit for like launching like Mad Max right now. But
yeah,
I mean,
but again, like we were talking about the Deadpool Wolverine. What did Marvel finally do? They gave the people what they wanted.
Yeah.
Like, stop doing these franchises. If, again, George Miller, give the people what they want. If they want Mel Gibson, you bring Mel Gibson back. Because now you're in the spot where the next time you go and you sit with a studio head and you start talking about the next Max movie, they have a thought of, well, we're not giving you the budget that we did the last film, because the last film we lost our behinds on.
That's why you come in with Mel Gibson, then they give you all the budget.
Yeah,
this is also
absolutely right, Meeks.
The effects of the strike last year, because
I don't think so.
Because they pushed stuff off, they canceled a lot of movies, so they don't have the stuff. There was that whole stretch. What was it? 5 months, 6 months, or whatever. So
but they had some films that were finished that they notoriously pushed off to go back and do some rework on it. So they had to. They didn't. What they didn't have was films that was up to the par.
That's just Hollywood in the last 15 years.
It's made them self-examine. Like, is this going to make money? Because now, like after the pandemic, if you're not Top Gunning at Maverick, then you better start thinking about the stuff that you're putting in theaters. Because now with the Ghostbuster Afterlife taught us, you can't just put some nostalgic on the screen and expect people to walk in. In fact, people were walking out of that.
Shit was so bad.
You better bring something a little bit more than just a name of the franchise. That's why I think Deadpool Wolverine, because the trailers are looking fantastic. Another sleeper that I think Paramount made a terrible mistake on is we just saw the previews or the trailer for Axel F. I think that movie would have done well in the theaters, and I think Paramount made a terrible mistake putting that on Netflix, because that's in the kind of nostalgia factor and action that people would have went back into the theater to see. So that's where our next major release is going to Netflix.
All you have to say is, we made this to make up for Beverly Hills Cop 3.
Yeah, and guess
this
what?
This is an apology. And then people would be like, oh, okay, if it's like 1 and 2, I'm in.
It's like the greatest apology. Just that new trailer that dropped. You're like, wow, man. It's like, wow, that is like, I don't, again, I love John Landis, but they've got to take his Directors Guild, union dues back for that one.
Don't
man.
worry, he hasn't worked in a long time.
There's a reason for it. There's a reason for it.
So in terms of Mad Max series, we talk a lot about it. Do we think that Mel Gibson will make an appearance again?
No. I think the comments that George Miller made over the weekend in a couple of interviews, one that was with I think CBS Morning and a couple other ones, it's not going to happen.
Do you think Mel Gibson could buy the rights from Miller and then make it?
Mel Gibson does have some money, but I don't think I can't see George Miller unless if something happens and he's not able to do films, and then another director comes in that says, I want Mel Gibson. I think that's the only way we sell if George Miller is removed from the franchise. I think that's the only way you see him. But as long as he's running it and he's the head of the Mad Max creative vision, no, you're not going to see Mel Gibson again. I can't see Steven Spielberg doing a Mad Max film. I can't see that. I could really see Christopher Nolan doing one. I can see him taking it on and exploring some themes or something else. He's one of those kind of guys that will go left field with some stuff.
Yeah. Well, moving on, because we've talked about it a little bit and hinted at it. Not necessarily Deadpool and Wolverine, but X-Men. Looks like they found their writer. What are you guys as two connoisseurs of writing in the film industry? What are your thoughts on the writer pick?
Michael Leslie, a good film writer, good screenplay writer. I don't want to say, hey, people laugh about those Hunger Game movies, and there's a large majority that when people were going to San Diego Comic-Con, they hated that situation. He captivated the audience for a younger skewer to get excited about the films where I had never heard about the books. And, I watched a couple. I'm like, this is actually a pretty good franchise. The characters were well thought out. The action moved. Even though all three films have a kind of a similar plot, yet they're distinctly different. Or actually 4 films, because I think the last film was a double film. But I'm thinking if they, from what I understood, I was kind of glad because I've heard that you're going with Ryan Coogler. And if he did the same boneheaded mistake that he did to Black Panther 2, I was going to have a problem with this. So I'm glad he's not actually a part of the writing. They're letting an actual screenwriter that can bring a younger skewer and a bunch of characters, because the Hunger Games wasn't just about one main character. There were a lot of sub characters in the back. So I think it's a good job.
I just looked this guy up, and I have zero confidence because he also wrote Assassin's Creed movie.
Yeah,
but let me tell you something. The Assassin's Creed movie. Now, here's the one thing: every video game film that's ever came out has been heavily studio handed. I don't know where his vision and a bunch of other people that have no idea what a video game movie is, and can be involved. You
Ballad of Songbirds and whatnots, that did okay, but not. I haven't seen it. I hate those Hunger Game movies. I saw the first one. Hated it so much that I never bothered with any of the others.
You know what? I wasn't. I had never heard about the franchise before the books wise or anything else like that. Wasn't into any of them. I ended up watching the films. I'm like, this is actually a pretty good franchise. I was kind of shocked.
It's a pretty good ripoff of Battle Royale. Yeah,
but well, see, I don't know when books were written and situations.
Oh, Battle Royale was way before. Because that was in the 90s.
Well, they did it with some look, it made Jennifer Lawrence a star, and God knows that was an impossible task. So somebody, it was the writing there, it wasn't the acting. And so
yeah, that's true.
So I kind of think that, but you need someone that can balance out the characters. Look, Simon Kingsburg, you and I both know we sat through that crap while he was in the theater. Like, this is a man that destroyed a franchise, built a franchise, destroyed a franchise. I've never seen anyone.
And he's about to destroy another one, I think.
He's about to start another one. Well, in the same vein is you need someone that knows how to manage characters and give everyone different voices. That's not an easy task. You and I both know that it's not easy. I think that when you watch the Hunger Game, all the characters are complete. Look, you've got someone who made.
But he didn't
Lenny
do
Kravitz.
the other ones, the good ones that made money. He only did the last one.
Yeah, well, the last one made money too. So, it's not like this one came in. It's not like it Ghostbuster Afterlife did.
That's true.
So all I'm saying is that you need somebody that can work with characters, build characters. I think from the films I've seen, and he ended the series well. It wasn't like they were like, oh my God, they totally dropped the ball on the last movie.
Well, it's a prequel, so it's not really an ending.
Well,
the problem is, okay, look, here's the problem. If you look at all the Hunger Games and how they're directed and how they're written, and then you watch this one, you can tell that this person is a playwright because it is like a high budget play, which translates to a lot of people don't want to go watch. So I don't know. I can't. He like wrote Macbeth, and so like what are like. I don't know.
Well, you don't really write Macbeth.
Yeah,
you kind of adapt it.
Yeah.
Well, I guess you don't write it, but you get credit for writing it, right? So, but yeah, I don't.
And some guy named Bill helped a little bit.
Yeah. I don't know. We'll see. X-Men is a very touchy subject, in my opinion.
Of course.
The X-Men are almost more sacred than the Avengers because they started off more. You have to learn how to write it. They only really started to get the X-Men story right when when Logan came out. It was a great movie.
Well, I think Days of Future Past was probably the best X-Men film that's been done. Adapted work that actually translated, and that entire film was like you were on the edge of your seat. That's the only time that I thought worked like it was done and ripped from the books and the material was right. I think the first X-Men movie is a good attempt, and the second one is a better attempt, but they're not really adapted from the work as much. But Days of the Future Past, they did a great job of that, and I think the X-Men First Class films are a much better representation than some of the other ones. So it can be done right. It's just that you're right. It's sacred compared the Avengers. There's certain characters that we know are big and pillars. It's hard to write those characters. The X-Men, you have to get their personalities correct, and I think that's why I think this is a little bit better than doing the Hunger Games, because hopefully this is one of the few times they tell them, hey, pay attention to some of the adapted material, how Wolverine acts, how these characters are balanced between one another.
You think during this writing process, Channing Tatum's going to show up as Gambit?
I hope not. I hope Channing Tatum.
I bet I bet he's going to be in the Deadpool movie.
I got a bad feeling he is too.
I bet that's one of the cameo things that you could do. It's like all the people that always wanted to be or were supposed to have their own movie, bring them in.
They're counting disaster for that one.
Well, we can all see the bullet that we dodged.
Yeah. Oh,
it's like, that would have been a bad movie. I couldn't have sat through that for 2 hours.
I don't know. I worry about it because I don't feel anyone's really written X-Men properly except for X-Men 97.
Well, like I said again,
if you haven't watched X-Men 97,
I have. I think. Look, I'm not. I never was really a big fan of the animated series. I thought it was okay. I've seen. I haven't finished the entire season. I think it's okay. I think Days of the Future Past is still a much better representation of the X-Men that was done to the screen than I've seen anyone else do. But again, good luck. Well, actually, I'm sorry. First Class was really good too. Because there were certain aspects that I did not expect that they. Well, number one, you had Michael Fassbender, but the writing for Magneto was way amplified than it had ever been. So, there's. Look, I like to say that Marvel can't make another mistake. They know this. That's the exact reason why they did the whole Deadpool Wolverine thing. They know that time is limited, and I think that they're really going to craft this. And I think that's the reason why they knew what happened with Black Panther 2. They didn't want to have Cooley involved too heavy in that writing. They wanted to get an outside source. He must have pitched it well for him to get the job, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the characters have such good stories to begin with. So it's just going to be like, what do you choose? What is the best story for each character to weave in with your overall arcing story of, how are you going to introduce the X-Men into the Marvel Universe? So it is a daunting task.
It is.
But there is a lot of good material there to work from. So hopefully they get it right, because it could easily be like a 3-hour movie if you wanted to be.
Well, here's the thing. I know this is one of the few times where even as a screenwriter's not even to say this. Like, I would be extremely a nervous wreck writing the X-Men compared to like coming in writing Captain America. I would be I would be like, oh no, let me get a singular character compared to doing, because there's so much complexity with those characters, and they're so well known in pop culture that if you do one aspect of them that doesn't sing the voice that they've seen for 40-50 years,
well, and you have to do your own take on it as well. Exactly. So it's like it has to be what everyone knows, but also different than what you've seen before.
Yeah. Now look, if they paid us, Dr. Brentley and I would Dr. Brentley and I'd be taking that money, but chances are there would be a whole lot of podcasts bashing our version of it.
True. Well, before we move on, who was a better Mystique?
Rebecca Romijn.
I think so. I think I got to give it to you.
She had a better body, and I actually liked the way she spoke and did the physical aspects of the character better.
Yeah, her makeup was the makeup they did for her was like great.
Yeah.
Well, with that being said, fellas, let's move on to plastic. Hot Wheels leading the way to bankruptcy. Hot Wheels decided to team up with Hasbro and rip everybody off. And if you guys don't know what we're talking about, well, they're transforming your wallet to empty. It's full of dead cast materials, and I don't think anyone's gonna buy this thing. What do you guys think?
This is one of the few times I wish our editor, I know he was busy this week, but it would have been funny for him to do the transforming sound of it didn't show like a water and the money comes out, because that's exactly this was like, I know it popped in a little bit of last week into the news. We're bringing it still in this week because it's such a ridiculously just asinine product. It's like $80. Now it's not even, it's $80 and it comes with the trailer. This is $80 for a die-cast small version of Optimus Prime that comes in a box. A nice box while it gives credit, but no, this is
for $80 you could at least throw in the trailer, right?
You would think for $80, but like a couple of years ago at the San Diego Comic-Con, they had I think it was like the 40th anniversary of Knight Rider, and they had it was in a glass case. Sold out immediately, which all Marvel or Mattel Creation crap does at these conventions. But it was in a glass case, and the actual car had the doors opened. There were lights inside, and it had the Larson beam. If anybody doesn't know, it's called the Larson beam. But it that was priced at I think it was $49 or $69, and that was something that was special. And this is $89. It's metal, no lights, no nothing, and it's smaller than a G1. Take the $80, save it up, get yourself a couple other $100 more, and just go out and get yourself a G1 die-cast version from '84. It makes sense.
Yeah, because no one remembers that they were die-cast.
They were die-cast in the beginning. Yeah, and
when I saw this, I mean, you guys are much more into it, but when I saw actually how big it was,
wow, yeah.
I was like, I don't think I would pay $40 for this thing.
And it's right.
And
it's 35, 32 maybe. on the pricing. This is the problem with Mattel Creations.
But when you're selling Hot Wheels that are about the same size for a couple dollars each, then how do you get away with selling this?
All they're trying to do is just pay off the fucking licensing. That's it.
Yeah.
I mean, it's literally that's it. Like there's like Mattel Creations is like, you know, we could charge a premium because we're Mattel Creations, and then Hasbro's like, we could charge a premium because it's Optimus Prime and it'll look like G1 and you could use this G1 knockoff box, and they price it at $80. And I mean, you know, I'll buy it on Amazon and return it after I open it and look at it. I'm not going to keep it. I don't want it. I'm just saying it outright. I'm going to buy it. I'm just going to pop up somewhere. I'll buy it. Well, but $80 is like, get the.
Here's what makes it completely ridiculous and asinine by Mattel. It was 4 days before that, they released the Hot Wheel version of Optimus Prime with the trailer. That's the same size as accurate Hot Wheel, and that was in. If you were on, Big Bad Toy Store, it was $5.99. Entertainment Earth. If you're on like Amazon, I think it was $10.99. It was like, so everyone had the point, but it was under $15.
Yeah.
You do something that's die cast, and of course that's probably going to be metal too. But when you look at the price differential, like from one,
does that other one transform?
No, it doesn't.
No. Okay.
But it's a plain Hot Wheels, but it has all the coloring. You
got to pay that $75 for the transforming action,
you're still that's like, well, let's put it like this: they could have just RoboSunned it and had it transform by itself at that price.
Yeah,
it doesn't make any sense. But they've got like a smaller version of the Hot Wheels that's $10 basically. And then they come out the box. I thought like, well, what's this, like $25 or something? And I saw like, it was like $80 something, and it was immediately like I clicked out of that browser. Like, no.
I don't want to accidentally click anything.
Yeah, I don't make a mistake. Put my credit card information right there. I need Samuel Jackson and Capital One to get me out of that.
Want to thank everyone for stopping by and saying hello. Welcome. We are PixelsPlasticInk. Right now, we're currently talking about Mattel Creations, and comment below on whether or not you would pay $80 for a Hot Wheels 4-inch.
This big. It's this big.
Maybe 4-inch Optimus Prime transfer. I don't know, man. It's got to be the dumbest thing I've seen come out in a long time.
For $80, you could take yourself to a college or pick apart, snap a picture in front of an actual cab over, and just tell people it was it. It's like they're just they're hurting the industry with ideas like that. That's a money grab. That's one where there should be on all the fan sites that this is crap, and like you absolutely get what you pay for, because we're just just call it trans ripoff. Just put it on the box and everything. More than meets your pocketbook.
That's
it's a hell no for me too, brother.
Now I will say one positive. I did like the plastic that it comes in, that you can take it off and switch it. So depending on if it's as the car or if it's as the robot, you have a different plastic thing to put it under, and you can seal it back up. Oh yeah.
And they had the card back. They had the unpunched card back, and they had on the back.
So there was a couple of cool things, but not for that price.
Did they?
Not that much.
I think I did see a little. They also had another accessory, right? The little thing of Vaseline that they give you, to make it feel a little better.
Vaseline and sandpaper,
yeah, just to make it feel a little better when you actually get that run through your credit card. Because that's a cash grab, man. That's all it is. Mattel should be ashamed of himself for that one. Do better, do better.
Yeah, and Hot Wheels too, man. Like this, just like.
Wow.
Any other major news in the plastic world?
Yes, sir. We got one that happened today, and this is one of those things. Let me just give the listeners out there just one thing in your life: never say never. Never say I'm never going back to the job. I'm never going to do. Never use the word never. Just say if the circumstances were different, I have to think about it, but never say never. Don't burn your bridge before you have to walk over it, because when it happens, you lose respect for the person that says never. And today, there was some respect lost because Mr. Todd McFarlane, who was sitting at a Phoenix convention this weekend, did a never. He said he would never work for Marvel. He was bold and proclaimed, I will never, I mean never. He said, they asked me to come back Spider-Man. That's never going to happen. I'm happy doing Spawn and everything else like that. Now, I don't know what the hell happened in the 30 plus years of Spawn and his split up from Marvel, but he released some figures today, or, I would say more detailed statues with his own likeness, his own Spider-Man, his Captain America designed, and it's a co-branch with Marvel. So I can tell people, again, don't ever say never, because you will have to backtrack and it's not going to look good, because he was so defiant. Like, I walked in and you see all his documentaries. I walked right into, the Marvel offices. I told them to go to hell and shit. Well, it looked like he walked in on his hands and knees and said, can I please have that license? Because Marvel Legends is killing it. They did not have to walk on their hands and knees for Todd McFarlane. It seemed like that was the reversal of fortunes now in that scenario.
Well, the real story was he said, I will never, and then under his breath was like, unless the paycheck is good. Exactly. And then I'll make subpar action figures compared to Legends.
Yeah, wow. Well, yeah, Legends, we talked about this on Wednesday on Toybox Chronicles. Legends has done a fantastic job. They are at the top of their game this year over everyone. So Hasbro's killing it. This was one they were happy to let Todd McFarlane do, because this reminds me of some of the early work that he did for, in between when he first had his first Spawn figures, and then there was a time period that they became Spawn statues, and he's kind of reiterated that now. These look like, while it looks like covers to 301, it's a Spider-Man and everything, but if you've owned any Marvel Legends over the last 20 years, every Spider-Man has been Todd McFarlane Spider-Man. They've all done the same look and same situation, but to make this kind of like a comic book related cover wise, I'm like, well, it's a statue. That's great. Diamonds Collectible could have done something like that too.
Yeah,
it's no big deal. So
speaking of diamonds, it's that time where we get into ink. I think that comics might be going a little bit too far when it comes to covers.
Yeah.
Because the reality is, I saw this downfall of cover regurgitation happening back in the New 52. That's when I remember it starting to get bad, and I remember that because I made it a point to collect every Batman cover ever for New 52.
Oops.
It's an oops. I'm only missing 3.
Oh, damn.
Yeah. So,
well, to be honest with it had 100 different covers, so difference.
Yeah,
it's pretty good.
So, but where we're at now is they need to stop focus. And the topic here is there an issue with alternative covers in comics? And I think that there is. I think the amount of effort and time that they spent putting into alternative covers, they should be spending in trying to revitalize the comic book industry, because it's being taken out by manga. It's being taken out by just people not wanting to spend the money. Digital platforms are kind of becoming where it's at. I'm not a fan of that per se on comics, because everything digital, if they don't want you to have it, it just gets taken away, even though you paid for it. So I'm a little bit weird on that. But what are your thoughts on this? Is it actually hurting the comic market?
I think there's a couple of key things. The reason why I think it most definitely is, and Dr. Brentley and I debate this all the time. One, we're going to talk next week about Blood Hunt. So there's going to be, because we've let a couple of issues go through and a couple of other things come out, and not just all the alternative covers, the whole the alternate edition kind of thing too really rolled its head ugly through this event. You're already in trouble as the comic industry. There's a lot of shops out there that are really working hard and trying their best to keep their doors open. But the heads of Marvel, DC, Image, you could say Boom, Dark Horse, all these companies are destructively destroying their industry. And this was started with Marvel, and then it seeped this ugly head to Image. So yes, at this moment, you can blame the Jim Lees, the Rob Liefelds, the Todd McFarlanes, the Eric Larsons, the Jim Valentinos. Blame them all, because they are the real reason why this epidemic of greed and destruction is starting to happen, because they wanted to inflate their numbers. And Todd's recently been doing this too, where you have 20 covers for an edition of a anniversary book. And he said, "Oh, I got the number one book." Well, damn straight, if you had 20 covers, you should have the number one book, because some idiot out there is buying 20 covers, you know?
Well, not only that, but that same idiot probably thinks it's all a different book.
Exactly. And the problem of that is that we come from an era where Marvel didn't have alternative covers when we first started reading books. You had the one cover. You focused on the cover, the issue, you read it. Comics were healthy. Now it's like, for them to make money and be good, is a book's got to have 4 to 5 covers, and you need all your buddies to show up to do alternate covers and books and things. And like, what it ends up doing is it's number one, the book's worth nothing, because there's 5 different covers. Maybe one of those covers actually is a little extreme and goes somewhere. But this practice is like if you made 5 different Toyotas, all the same car, yet all you did was put like maybe a different emblem on one. Like, Toyota would be out of business tomorrow.
But one of them works better than all the
Yeah,
others, and you don't know which one until about 20 years later.
But at this point, Toyota would be out of business real quick. They're killing themselves, and they're shooting themselves in this industry by this kind of practice, because manga does not do this. Manga doesn't need 10 covers to books. Like I said, how many times have you walked in, you saw a Stephen King book with 7 different covers? Like, it doesn't happen. This is a predatorial practice that's killing the industry. And the only people that's not intelligent enough to stop it are the people that spend 30 to 20 years in the actual field that are still running these companies. Our main problem is saying that we need to get younger individuals in there with different ideas to run these companies. They need a house cleaning. Get the Jim Lees, get the CBs, get these people out from the editorial ranks, and start getting people that's focused on business and how do we run successful businesses, because they're not in the comics right now, Dr. Brennan.
Once in a while, it's fine. If it's a special, it's a milestone, the 1,000th issue, you do a bunch of covers. But when like all the new books, like when they show new books are coming out, usually even by independent people, that's when they go crazy, because they Boom and Dynamite, they know that they need to have some gimmicks to actually sell this book through. It won't do it on its own. But yeah, I do miss the days where it was like the cover is the cover for that issue, and the whole point is you try and make every cover iconic. Not all of them are, but some do. They hit that mark, and that's a special issue. But when every issue has 5 to 10 different covers, and the Virgin variants and the sketch variants, and it's just
fucking nothing at all on them.
Yeah, and they're killing the industry. This is an industry that we came up with, we loved. It's like I can say my entire life, as from right now, from walking on the planet, comics have been a part of it. And the individuals who are a little older than us that are in comics are killing this industry. Make no mistake, they are doing actions to devastate that. Every time we turn around, it's a shop closing. It's like they don't have a common respect because they're doing some Todd McFarlane, Jim Lee, Rob Liefeld, all the executives out there. You're worried about your damn selves right now. You're not worried about the next generation of comic artists or the next generation because there's not going to be another one at this rate. You're worried about Todd McFarlane's like, how can I get all the money I can right now and screw the rest of the industry? Because if you cared about it, it's kind of like the same way in being in the forest. Cut up all the trees. Let's see what happens to the logging industry in 100 years if there's no trees. That's exactly what happens. There's no environmental protection service stopping these buffoons from killing the comic industry.
Yeah. I think it's like when I log in to look at like what's releasing on comics, and it's like and I'm just trying to figure out if issue 3 is coming out yet, and then you see issue 3 and it's like cover A, cover B, cover C, cover C1, cover C2, cover C. Like that was like I remember in Batman 52 there it was like it was issue, I want to say like 12. But then it was like that was like the start of a Joker run. So it was issue 12, 12.1, 12.2, 12.3, 12.4, and it was like what the hell one am I supposed to buy? Unfortunately I bought all of them, but I think that it's just it takes away from the story. I feel like it's like this it's the comics way of doing like magic in front of you, right? Yes. Like, hey, the writing sucks, but don't pay attention to that. Here's some shiny covers.
It's just right? Show. It's like going in New York City and getting someone to do the shell game for you.
Yeah,
that's exactly what they're doing. Just making around. Oh, see what's the good issues.
Yeah, like look at which comics are doing it more. Is it Marvel or is it DC or is it independent? Right? Because for the most part, like independent comics, you typically only get 1, maybe 2 covers.
That's like, not anymore.
I mean, used to be, right? But you got Marvel right now. You get 15 covers for issue 13. Yeah. Like, there's no point, you know.
And the same exact way again. It's like they're only worried about themselves. They're not looking at this down the line. They're saying, "How are we saving comic book stores?" 2, it's because. The one thing that this should focus on is that, well, how's manga doing it? How is manga actually gaining viewership? Well, and you're somehow losing it because any other business practice, you would start like I'm a huge Los Angeles Laker fan. Our coach was not the right person to architect it. They fired him. That does not happen nearly enough. When the people at the top on these comic book industries, they're not getting rid of that and saying the philosophy needs to change. We need to start wondering, like, what's going to make money? What's going to consistently make money? How can we do it? Let's cut 15 Batman books. Let's try concentrate on maybe Batman and then a Robin book and just move on. Let's not have 15 different covers for everything because guess what? That's 15 different artists we don't have to pay to do another cover.
Yeah.
Concentrate on good stories because if you're looking at manga, and manga's doing it in some cases in black and white.
Well, but you also have to remember too, like manga is gaining popularity just because of the rise of anime.
Yeah, but even still, you got X-Men 97. Be damned if you're selling the X-Men book like that's competing with that show.
Sure, yeah, I agree with that. Where I think there could be a pivot here for alternative covers on comics is in the area of new artist. So like you would have your main covers done by your well-known artists, right? Name it. That's who does your covers. Where they could really not only, you had mentioned like where's your audience in the future? Not only thinking through that direction, but just thinking outside of that. If you said you had all of your, because you have all of your up and coming artists that want to be in Marvel, right? Or DC or whatever it is. But you said, okay, for every issue, we're going to do an alternative cover and it's spotlighting one of our up and coming artists. And then you would be able to see which book, like which cover sells well. And if you have like an up and coming artist that sells well, then maybe that's the artist that gets to do the next run. And but
they're doing that. Marvel
They used to.
is doing that because I just got the Blood Hunt. I think they call it Stormbreaker issue, and so on the back of it is actually the cover, and that is by a new artist. And so they've got the regular cover. Of course, this is the problem. They've got a bunch of different covers, but they've got the regular cover, and then they've got a couple of these Blood Hunt books that have a special cover by different artists that's up and coming.
Yeah, and like I said again, when they first started really kind of getting mainstream of this was the early pre-Image days before they left. And they did like, X-Men #1, but at least that was savvy enough to have interconnecting covers. And you were like, okay, you kind of got it. And they didn't do 15 covers the next issue, but they every now and then they seeped it in. Okay, every now a new issue 1 or something, I could see it happening, a special occasion. But now they're just doing this to offset sales. And what it's really doing is you're looking at fans and, again, I understand why people read manga more. You go to you get it at a Target, you can get it at any kind of major bookstore outlet, and you walk in with a whole story sometimes for like, 10, 12, 15 bucks.
Yep.
You're paying damn near almost $7.99, $6.99 for some 32 pages, and there's a whole bunch of other stuff with it. You've got #1, they've got to take books back down a notch. McFarlane, the one thing I will say is $2.99. It's a right number for books. $6.99, or in some cases, I believe it was $7.99 for the alternative edition. We'll talk about that next week. Marvel really kind of dropped the ball on the summer event. That it's almost like Marvel did Blood Hunt in such a way where it's like if we went to go see Wolverine and Deadpool and we found that it was $30 a ticket.
Yeah.
And they were like, well, no one's going to go see that movie. Well,
it's surge pricing. Oh, this is a popular movie. You have to pay extra.
It's like they have to start thinking about how are they going to
Madam Web is $250.
Exactly.
You want to see Deadpool?
We pay you $250 to watch.
They've got to start thinking about the next generation. How are we going to build this beyond our lifestyle? None of these people that are in the industry that's claimed to love these industry is doing that. They're only out for themselves, and they're intentionally wrecking a very good source. But I can tell you what's going to be around, though. Mega will be around 20 years from now. Mega's still going to be around.
Yeah.
I can't say that if they don't start making some changes at the top at some of these companies, I don't know if comics is going to be able to survive, because one day the corporate ends are going to say, you know what, we've had enough of this. Let's just get rid of it.
You're already on doomsday with Warner Brothers, AOL, and DC. So
I will say, though, that the alternate cover thing does work because it fools people like me. Because as I've been going through my comic collection, getting ready to sell stuff, I'm like, oh, wait a second. This is issue 12, and this is also issue 12. I guess I went to the store, saw that it was a Batman, but a different cover, because I don't remember this cover. Well, I must not have picked this one up last week. And you find out a week or two or sometime years later, it's like, oh wait, why do I have so many of the same issue?
Well, like if like the plastic part of this equation is every now there's a chase figure in like comics and toys, and that every now and then that kind of upsets the fans, and they kind of really don't do it as much. But mostly you're able to go and purchase the same character across the line, and it's the same one. And toys are in an uptick. There's some predatorial factors in certain ways, but not as many. But comics is just like, look, we're just going to constantly do this until we're at the point. And if you're not listening to people telling you that it's not working and it's no, and rejecting it, then you're stupid because it's being rejected right in your faces. But everybody that works in the industry and goes to Comic-Con, we'll see Comic-Con this year without the Hollywood money that's been pumping in for the last 10, 12 years. We'll see how well that's going to work out for them. We'll see if there's going to be a different change, because you better start focusing on the industry while it's still here.
Yes, sir.
Yep. I think there's a good point there. The only thing I would add to the anime versus, or not the anime, but the manga versus comics is the the storytelling's a little bit better in manga.
Well, because they're trying new things.
Well, I'm reading one right now about it's in the Batman world. It's about Joker, and it's a crazy story because Joker finds Batman that was reverted to a child and has to raise him to hate him and can't kill him because he needs him as his foe. It's this crazy story that I didn't think I'd like, and it's fantastic. It's really well done. So yeah, I mean, look, just knock it off with the alternative covers. That's all I'm saying. That's it.
I'll be quite honest with you, man. Just get back to the way it used to be. Just write good stories, do good artwork. It's very simple.
Yeah. Do better.
Yes.
Well, I think that's gonna do a slow roll out of here. We got through everything. Anyone have any last minute things before we get into the sponsor?
No. Like I said again, I think we've hit it for the night. We gave some people some food for thought over the Memorial Day weekend.
Yeah. Don't buy Optimus Prime.
Don't.
Just because you want him to race on your Hot Wheels track at home. Awesome. Well, Mr. Storm, what do you have for us in terms of sponsors?
Well, first we go with the big and then we go with the little. Entertainment Earth is our sponsor for the PixelsPlasticInk Shadow Nose Network. There's big box stores, and I know a lot of times we talk about the Targets and the Walmarts and situations. A lot of these online guys are servicing a part of the community that I know that sometimes when I go to the Target or Walmart or someplace I can't get it. Then my next jump is to take off and go look at one of these online toy companies. They're doing great jobs. They send it to you. I've never had a problem with my Entertainment Earth. And yes, we all do order from Entertainment Earth. We just don't put that on the screen. We walk the walk and talk the talk. Always packaged well, always sent. I give them nothing but credit. We have a special code that you can see in link in the description where you can get 10% off, and all orders that are $79 or more comes with free shipping. So, if you buy 3 figures, you've qualified for the free shipping.
Yes, and it's almost worth it to get that over that 80 hump just so you can get free shipping. It's like,
exactly.
Get something.
And the good thing about it too is that sometimes you're playing the long game at some of the big box stores, and that item might be there, or somebody might have beat you to the punch and paid the guy in the back, and he knew a week before that stuff was coming out and held it, and then you're stuck. Just sometimes, and I've never heard of a figure swap from one of the online retailers, so that's the difference. So depends on who you run.
Some retailers even they'll ask you, do you want collectible versions of the box, or do you want just standard? So
exactly. Second is from day one, and we love our from day one people, because when we were small on the game, they saw a little something in us. That's Toys versus Games. Now let me tell you something, Tony at Toys versus Games. If you want a personal touch, someone that's going to remember your face every time you're in there, you have conversations about toys of the past or toys of the present, that you want to go down to Wilmington, California, and you want to see Tony and his lovely wife over at Toys versus Games. They are the spectrum that is completely different in the industry. The small mom and pops, every dollar counts, and they really respect the customers, and we thank them for being the sponsor of the Shadow Nose Network, and especially PixelsPlasticInk from day one.
And what's important about that too is they might not have the new stuff, but they for sure will have old stuff that the other places will not have. So it's always important to take a day on the weekend or something, run down, just do some toy hunting. Mom and pop stores, you're always going to find a better thing. So,
and you know what? With Memorial Day weekend popping up, there's probably going to be, because I've seen it all over the place. I can't speak for Toy versus Games or Entertainment Earth, but I've seen it pop up. There's a lot of sales this weekend, so you might want to check and make sure, because there might be some discounts that you could get over this weekend, especially it being the 3-day weekend. So you might want to check them out.
True.
Yeah. And finally, our newest sponsor, Beautiful Adventure Destinations. Beautiful Adventure Destinations invites you to India's hidden gem, Pankot Palace. Enjoy amenities like our steam room, meditation suite,
and all-you-can-eat buffet. We even have a place just for the little kids. They say you can return home, but your heart will remain in Pankot. Pankot Palace, conveniently located just a bridge away. If for some reason the bridge is out, a boat, an elephant, and a train will be provided free of charge. And don't forget the deluxe air package, as some of our bargain providers do not land before they make you disembark. Everyone who visits says it's enchanting. Everyone. Disclaimer, all hail Mola Ram. Digging for Sankara stones may be required by the Maharaja. Not responsible for possession from drinking the blood of Kali. Kali Ma shall rule the world. No refunds, no exceptions.
Well, I know where I'm going next.
You know, you forgot to say about the free buffet that they have chilled monkey brains ready for you too. I'm a little disappointed that Bad Travels didn't put that in, but you know, again, one thing you better remember though is absolutely, in no exceptions, no refunds.
Yeah, none. Well, I think that'll do it for us this evening. There's a lot of stuff coming on the channel. There's actually, just so everyone is aware, Meeks is going to be joining me on the Chatmatics experience. We're going to be talking about gaming. That will be a pre-recorded one, and if people like it, who knows? Maybe we'll go live on there. I don't know.
Awesome.
But Meeks has a lot to say in the video game industry. He's a fantastic book of knowledge on video games. So I figure, hey, why not? What the hell? Let's tap into it. But I think that's it for me, fellas. I think we're good.
Oh, yeah.
Hopefully Chris didn't crash his yacht yet.
I know.
But
Well, he's got the money.
We'll see. Yeah, we'll see if he comes back next week. Anyways, from all of us over at Pixel Plastic Inc., we want to thank you for stopping by. We know you've had a good time. It's fantastic. It's always a pleasure you watching us because, well, frankly, we're the best thing on the internet. You know, if you're grown ass men arguing over toys and stealing shit, you probably don't belong on YouTube. So until next time, we will see you later.
Happy Memorial Day.